So I was like 18 at university, couldn't afford my rent. I started a little side business and I grew that, and that provided, I worked like my backside off for like 3 years, and I just worked 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. and I just smashed it. And I think people who are struggling, I don't think they're working as hard as they could be.
All right, so every so often, a caller calls into a show and accidentally exposes an entire political ideology in just a few minutes. And this caller, John, is about to do just that. He's peddling one of the most corrosive, the oldest myths in the conservative right-wing playbook, that the only thing standing between you and lots and lots of success is your own work ethic. The host pushes back, which is great, but as we'll discuss, he isn't always this tough on the rich and powerful who push the exact same narrative. If you want to see more videos like this, hit the like and subscribe buttons, and don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss a video. Now let's watch this together, and then I'll give you my thoughts at the end.
Don't know why we should be capping rent. I have a bit of an issue with
because you're getting a lot of people falling out of the private rented market into social housing, which doesn't exist for a lot of people.
I think we just need to work a bit harder. So I had So let me explain. So I was like 18 at university, couldn't afford my rent. I started a little side business and I grew that, and that provided, I worked like my backside off for like 3 years, and I just worked 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. and I just smashed it. And I think people who are struggling, I don't think they're working as hard as they could be.
Oh,
I think everybody, I think there is so much opportunity that we have. And even if, you know, I understand that's not everybody, but I feel like for the vast proportion of people, I think it's true. And I think if we want to be successful...
What gives you that impression?
Because I look at people around me and
what?
You know, not being able to afford houses, and I know it's a stereotype, and I'm also a young person, but there is a lot of going out and there is a lot of eating out. Like, to be fair, that
We're
is what
back to
happens.
avocados.
No. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Netflix?
But I do think, my generation does have a bit of a problem with spending. I do think that is a thing. I do it as well. I think everybody does. If you really tone it back, everything, it is possible to buy a house. I've just bought my first house. It is possible if you work really hard. And I think that if everybody had the same mentality and the drive that I have, I feel like there'll be so many more people who can lift themselves out of
Do you know what, John?
problems.
Do you know what I'm going to do? I've not done this before, but I'm going to make an exception for you if that's okay. Do me a favour, stay on the line. I'm going to get you to say this directly to someone who is working their absolute backside off and is struggling to make ends meet, who is working every hour that God sends, trying to put food on the table for their children, trying to keep a roof over their head, and hears from you that they could be doing more. Stay there, because I want you to say it directly to someone's face. You ready, John?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mark's in Wimbledon. Mark?
Hi. Yeah, I wasn't intending to phone, actually. I just sent a text. I'm just really concerned by the statement that was made that people who are struggling aren't working as hard as they could be. I'd just really like to hear more about that, because I'm just kind of wondering how that works.
So it was, I guess my statement is more, and I'm talking about people of my generation, especially, I know what we heard from the lady who were called earlier, who's struggling to pay her bills. Obviously, we can look at this and look at extremities like that, and if there's people like that who are struggling, then absolutely that's where the government should come in and support. And if they're not, then that's a government failure. Absolutely, without a doubt. But I think there are some people who are struggling with rent and struggling with bills. I think everybody, as a country, we could all be working harder. I think be able to lift ourselves out of these problems. And I'm a massive believer in entrepreneurship as a solution for that.
Mark, you should be working harder.
Well, can I just come in? I'm sorry, because I think that's not quite what you said. I think you said anybody who's struggling isn't actually working as hard as they could, which is not quite the same as what you just said.
That was my point originally. So it wasn't the people, the minority who are really, really struggling and have got children of single parents. It was as a generation, we have spending problems. We can tone it back. We can all work harder. We can all work evenings, freelancing, doing this, doing that, extra jobs. We can all do it. I've done it, and I was able to take myself out of those situations.
So you're talking now specifically, John, having started talking about everybody else, you're now talking specifically about your generation who perhaps don't have children. Is that right?
No, not my generation. I think just I'm not going to be able to put what my statement is demographics. Can everybody?
Well, who are you talking about, John? Who are you saying work harder? Are you telling Mark to work harder?
I don't know Mark's situation, unfortunately.
Well, I can tell you my situation. I mean, firstly, I'm not quite sure what generation has to do with it, because I think struggling for me at the moment transcends generations. I think there are people in their early 20s who are really struggling. I think there are elderly people who are struggling. So, to be honest, I'm not quite sure what generation has to do with this, because I think struggling is struggling, and I think that the generational thing, in terms of my situation, I'm not struggling actually. I mean, I've worked very hard as well, and I've pulled myself to a position where I'm not struggling. I actually enjoy quite a nice quality of life, so I've got nothing to complain about. But I certainly, when I see people who are struggling, I certainly don't think they need to be working harder. I mean, some people do need to be working. Some people simply don't work very hard, and that's the thing. But I don't really understand what that has to do with struggle, because I don't think there's too much of a correlation between how hard you work and how much you get back at the moment.
So I totally take your point, but I do think if we look at a lot of individual cases about people who are claiming benefit and things like that, I think there are opportunities where people could be working harder. That's just my opinion as someone who was there.
Well, sure. So, I mean, I don't disagree with that, but again, with respect, that isn't quite what you said. I mean, I think sometimes, I can make a point and I don't quite say what I mean. And with respect, it sounds like what you're saying now isn't quite what you said there. You made a statement.
Yeah, I mean, I'll listen back to it. If I made a mistake, I totally apologise. But I don't want to be painted out as this kind of right-wing, horrible person who thinks that people who are struggling should be working harder. It's not absolutely what I meant. It was more of a...
Just the people on benefits?
No.
Well, that's what you said. You said there are some people on benefits who need to be working.
Some individual cases.
Well, like who? What example have you seen?
So I haven't. So I don't want to talk about individual cases, but I can reference a couple of friends of mine who are in this situation, and I think they're claiming money from the government wrongly, in my opinion, and they're not working as hard as they could be for their future.
All right. So this caller, John, is the perfect unfiltered voice of right-wing conservative ideology. It's a worldview built on a simple, comforting, and false premise that society is a pure meritocracy and that your success is a direct reflection of your effort. Systemic problems like a rigged housing market, stagnant wages, and inherited wealth simply don't exist. There are only hardworking individuals like him and lazy individuals who need to work a bit harder. He talks about working his backside off from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. to start a side business. Fine, excellent. But the ideology he's bought into prevents him from seeing the reality of hard work for millions of others. What about the person waking up at 5 a.m. to clean toilets in some soulless skyscraper for minimum wage? Or the care worker doing back-to-back 12-hour shifts? Is John honestly telling them that they just need to smash it a little bit more? It's an insult disguised as advice. Now, credit where it's due. In this case, Tom does a decent job of cornering John and exposing the weakness of his position, similarly with the other caller that Tom brought on air. But we have to ask, where was Tom's energy when he had a millionaire celebrity on the show, the owner of Brewdog, who came on and said this? He came on as just as much of a muppet, pushing the same I'm a maverick entrepreneur nonsense while facing accusations of a toxic work culture. It's one thing to challenge John from Wimbledon, it's another to hold a CEO's feet to the fire. And this selective pushback reveals a media ecosystem that loves to punch down on a regular caller, but often gives the wealthy a free pass to spread the very same ideology. You'll never hear people like John, or these celebrity CEOs, talk about the one ingredient that's just as crucial as hard work: luck. Being in the right place at the right time, not having a major illness derail your life, having a supportive family, stumbling upon the right idea before anyone else, admitting that luck plays a role would shatter the myth of being a self-made hero. It would mean acknowledging that maybe, just maybe, the person struggling isn't lazy but just unlucky. And that admission would crumble the entire right-wing individualistic narrative they've built their entire worldview upon. So what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons for more. And if you want to see more videos like this, hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching.